Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. For me, the monthly themes have a way of working over me, especially as I prepare to share. So this week, a person kept coming up in my dreams, and then pictures would pop up on Facebook from a while ago that I haven't seen or thought about. And then all of a sudden, videos about healing a certain dynamic in a relationship, which I experienced with this person, randomly began to show up on my feed. So if you haven't guessed yet, our topic today is forgiveness. And what I am calling the what, the why, and the how of forgiveness. So forgiveness is one of those things that we experience in phases, right? I know, like, I could feel complete about something, and then something else occurs, and it brings another opportunity to go even deeper, and even deeper in my healing. So what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is the path that allows us to free ourselves from resentments and regrets in order to find inner peace. It is a sacred act and a spiritual practice that allows us to remember who we are. Love. Forgiveness is one of our spiritual tools that allows us to move forward on our path of spiritual evolution and not be stuck in the past or weighed down carrying the burdens of the past into our present and therefore then into our future. So why forgive? The goal of forgiveness is to heal ourselves, to experience compassion and love for ourselves, and then begin to extend that to others in order to be free. So this all sounds great, right? Like, why wouldn't we want to experience freedom and peace? Yet why is it still so hard to forgive? I think that Mark Nepo reading touched on it so well, because it's the idea that if we forgive, perhaps we will forget and what has occurred in our life or what has made us who we are, or that we are somehow letting someone off the hook or giving them permission to do these things that occurred that are not acts of love, so to speak. So our mind, our ego rather, really is afraid that we might forget who we truly are and that we might get hurt again. Anyone relate to that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But true forgiveness is the exact opposite. It doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean condoning another person's wrongdoings. Forgiving someone does not mean that their actions are acceptable or justified. You can even move into a place of accepting what occurred without accepting or justifying their behavior. There's such a nuance to this in forgiveness. So the reason you forgive, the reason you let go of the past hurts and resentments has nothing to do with the other person. It's for yourself, for your own healing, for your own transformation and growth. Forgiveness as a spiritual practice is a deep and conscious process with several phases and layers. It involves uncovering the impact of the injustice had on your life, being willing to feel your feelings about that all the way through to completion. And then it involves a decision to be willing to forgive. And from there, we can begin to move into acceptance. And again, not accepting or condoning the behavior, but just accepting what is, what occurred has occurred. And this then allows you to be free. It's a process, and it takes time. It takes compassion for yourself and a deep willingness. And this is some of the work that we are going to get to do as a community today for those who are able to stick around for the workshop. We're going to move through some of these phases together. So the topic of forgive to live is so fitting because when we're carrying around the hurts and resentments, the blame, the shame, the judgments of the past, we are not really living. And we're certainly not living in the present moment. Forgiveness is that process that frees us to live in the eternal now moment. It is essential that we forgive ourselves and others before true spiritual growth can flourish, because in that forgiving comes that freedom. So again, why forgive? If I haven't given you enough reasons yet, to forgive and to hold grudges and resentments is a misuse of the universal spiritual law in such a way that it actually causes us more suffering. Holding on to blame and judgment of others is a rejection of this idea of the principle of the oneness of life. Unforgiveness creates roadblocks in our spiritual growth and to our full expression of life. In order to experience the fullness, the aliveness, the peace, the freedom of being human, we must let go of these past resentments and judgments. Because if I am judging a situation or a person or wishing that something was other than what it is, I am suffering. And when I carry that around with me, whether it be for days or months or years, hey, I hear myself. It's like having on a backpack and loading up stones, right? Those stones of resentment, of judgment, and walking around burdened by the weight of what we are carrying. Meanwhile, the other person is just living their life, doing their thing. But the fact that you're holding that stone on your back means you are still carrying them. It's like that Zen parable that Reverend Sonny shared last week about the monk that carried the woman on his shoulders over the water, even though he had taken a vow not to touch women. But when he got to the other side, he put down the woman, and the young monk that was with him was so upset and bothered until he finally had to say, like, "What are you doing? We took a vow not to touch women." And the older monk said, "Brother, I set her down on the other side of the river. Why are you still carrying her?" So we must let go of the past in order to be here now. Otherwise, the only person we're truly hurting is ourselves. And choosing to ruminate on our past will zap our energy. And it will not allow us to enjoy the possibility, the potential of this now moment. So how do we do it? What it requires is a willingness, a choice, to allow this energy of forgiveness, this energy of love and compassion to move through us. So one very practical aspect of this is to stop telling our same story of hurt over and over. looking for others to jump on board with us, to agree with us of how right we are and how wrong they are. As it said, would you rather be right or happy? And it's not just about not telling our stories over and over. It's also about not allowing our minds and our own awareness to ruminate over and over. This doesn't mean we don't take a conscious opportunity to express what has occurred. That's different. If you're being conscious about, I'm going to share this story in order to allow it to move through me and out, to heal, to clear, that's different. But when you've been sharing the same story for years and years because you get hit off of someone else saying, yes, you're right, that's something to look at. We must be the guardians of the gates of our own awareness. And I'm going to give you a little practical tip here. When you notice yourself bringing up that story, having images pop in your mind, whatever it may be, stop in that moment, take a deep breath, and just simply say to yourself, I am willing to forgive. I am willing to let go. And that's how you can stop that train track of going and building momentum and going, down the track miles and miles, ruminating on something. If you pause and breathe and simply say, I am willing. I'm willing to forgive. I'm willing to let go. It stops that momentum of that spiral of the hurt and the resentment and the judgment. We can't really express our true power if we're still holding on to so much unforgiveness. Forgiveness is a process of recognizing that we have an opportunity for our soul to evolve. It's a sacred act that allows us to experience the peace and freedom and love of the universe, of who we truly are. Forgiveness comes from love, and it reminds us that we are linked to one another. When we forgive another, we are truly forgiving ourselves. Because what we do to another, we do to ourselves in this one mind. This is the universal law of oneness, of the one mind. Catherine Ponder says, when you hold resentments towards another, you are bound to that person or condition by an emotional link that is stronger than steel. Forgiveness is the only way to resolve that link and get free. So we are called to forgive those who made us believe that we are not valuable, to forgive ourselves for having believed them. As long as we have a belief in our own inadequacy and insufficiency, dramas will keep appearing in our lives to confirm those beliefs. So we must unceasingly love and forgive, love and forgive. Our only goal is love, for indeed love is still and always the answer. As Mark Nepo said, the pain was necessary to know the truth, but we don't have to keep the pain alive to keep the truth alive. We don't have to hold on to the suffering to remember the growth that we have experienced. Relationships give us so many opportunities to practice forgiveness, right? And I don't just mean romantic relationships, all relationships. Coworkers, siblings, parent, child, neighbors, friends, spiritual community. All relationships are opportunities to learn more about ourselves, to grow and to evolve and to strengthen our resolve. If we constantly blame other people, there will be no healing. And old beliefs will continue to drive our lives. And in this, so many precious moments are wasted regretting the past and fearing the future, when truly the only time we have is now. And the act of forgiveness frees us from the past and the weight of that emotional baggage. And in that freedom, we get to become who we truly are. I have another Zen story, a parable to share with you today. This is the month of Zen parables, apparently. So a burly, rough samurai went in to see a monk of very small stature. And he says, "Monk," in a tone of a voice of someone who is accustomed to being instantly obeyed, right? He says, "Monk, teach me something about heaven and hell." The monk looked at this mighty warrior, and he replied with utmost disdain, "Teach you something about heaven and hell? I couldn't teach you anything. You are dirty, you smell bad, your sword is rusty, you are a disgrace. You are a disgrace to the lineage of samurai. Get out of here, I cannot stand you." The samurai obviously became enraged. He trembled and his face reddened. Mute with anger, he drew his sword and he raised it to kill the monk. And in that moment, the monk said, That is hell." The samurai shuddered at the thought of the compassion and the submission that this little man had to risk his life in order to show him hell. Slowly, he lowered his sword, full of gratitude and suddenly at peace. And the monk softly said, "And that is heaven." So what this story illuminates for us is that heaven and hell are a state of mind, and we get to choose. We are always at choice. Imagine this story if the samurai instead embodied this idea of curiosity. You know, our theme for this whole year is living everyday wonder. So I wonder, perhaps, if the samurai was in a place of curiosity, and instead of acting or reacting in anger and defense, perhaps he could have said something like, "I'm noticing, I'm feeling very hurt by your words. And I'm curious, are you feeling okay? Because this is not your typical way of behaving." Now, of course, that'll be a whole other story. This is just my little take on how we are in relationships. Because it makes me wonder how often in life are we like that samurai, jumping to conclusions, allowing our emotions to overcome in such a way that we react and become out of our minds and experience, as this story said, hell. Curiosity allows us to pause, to reflect, to be opened, and to respond as opposed to reacting. What would it look like to choose heaven instead of hell in our relationships? And is forgiveness the key? Krishnamurti, in his speech at the United Nations in 1984, said, "How can there be external peace in the world if one is not at peace with oneself?" We will never answer that question. We will always try to bring about change externally. We never seem to realize that unless each one of us changes radically, there will be no peace on earth. So this is our call. This is our invitation to be at choice and to choose to leave the past behind. Because the past only exists as we hold it in our memory. And it will not be a part of our current experience if we are willing to let it go, to choose heaven now. It's time to reclaim our power and stop dwelling in the past and allow love to lead the way. Are you with me? I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's definitely worth it. So I invite you to stick around after service today, even if you didn't plan on it. We have a short amount of time. You can run, grab a bite to eat, come back. We're going to start at noon. We're going to make a nice little circle in the back of the sanctuary here, and we're going to do some of this work together. Because what I know is having a community that can help hold me accountable, having a community that will love me no matter what I share, is what's going to allow this world to transform. When we're willing to do our own work and be supported by the love of a community that we offer here, to me, that's what it's all about. So let's move into prayer. Taking a nice deep breath. Just noticing right here, right now, anything that may be stirring within you. Noticing how you feel. Noticing if these feelings are showing up as any sensations in the body. Any tightness, any tingling, pulsing, radiating, energy. Just notice. Simply naming it. Becoming aware. Fully present right here, right now. And letting go of the tendency of the mind to want to judge certain feelings or physical experiences as good or bad, right or wrong. Let it go. And just allow yourself to be here now. Embracing all of who you are. As I speak this word now, knowing and recognizing that there is only one life, one universal presence that is love, that is freedom, that is peace. And this is the very nature of my being. This is the very nature of each and every one of us. Peace, love, freedom is here now and always available to be expressed in, as, and through each one of us. So we take this moment now to consciously choose to lay down the past, to let go of the burdens and the resentments that have been holding us back, and to fully embody the spiritual principle of love, to fully embody compassion, freedom, peace, to invite in curiosity, releasing judgments, and embracing curiosity. Knowing that right here, right now, transformation is happening. That in each and every moment I get to choose how I show up. I get to choose to allow love to wash over me, to allow love to inform every word, action, every step I take. knowing that love is who I am and love is always the answer. I ask, what would love do now? Let go, let go, let go. I embrace a willingness to forgive and know that right now I am free. I am free. So with great gratitude for the fulfillment of this word, with great gratitude for the fulfillment of this prayer, I release it. I let it go. And I release it into the divine action of the universe, that law that always says yes, that is always corresponding to my thoughts and my intentions. And I release it and allow it to do its good and perfect work as I step into the wholeness, the freedom, the love, the peace that I am. And know that I am unbotherable. I am unstoppable. I am. And so it is.